So Surface Duo 2 has been in the house and in the lab for just under a week. And I kind of wanted to give you guys just some like general first impressions, man. Some things that I've already noticed that I absolutely like. Some things that, like I said, aren't necessarily negatives, but things that I think I'm gonna have to get kind of used to or adapt to. But let's go ahead and cover them. This is Surface Duo 2, 1 week later. So let's talk Duo 2. All right, so right into it, hardware perspective. Duo 1 was super dope from a hardware perspective. I know some people had issues with their Type-C ports cracking, I think because that bottom portion was plastic. This is 110% metal and glass. Microsoft absolutely killed it. The hinge feels just as good, if not better than Duo 1, which is honestly saying something because of how good the hinge was on Duo 1. Even with all the bugs and annoyances that Duo 1 had, that hinge was universally praised, and Microsoft either made this one just as good or stepped it up, as a whole. So super good in that regard. Also want to talk about the gentle curves. So when it comes to Duo 2 versus Duo 1, every aspect and every edge of this particular device is curved. So you got your edges here on both sides. These are curved. The inside here is actually curved as well. And you'll notice if I open up the display, these displays here are curved as well. So where that comes into play, say for example, I'm moving an app between two screens, super seamless because again, this curve is here. It doesn't feel as harsh on your fingers. So super dope in that regard. Definitely dope. The one complaint I will say that I do have, it seems to be pretty general, consensus by this point, has to be the camera bump. Now, I was one of the ones who asked for better cameras for Duo 2, so I kind of have to eat it because in all honestly, you can't have it all. These foldable devices, foldables and dual screen devices are just too thin on one edge to actually fit in, camera sensors of these size into the physical body. So you're gonna end up with something like a camera bump on the end, right? Or you're gonna see Samsung's approach where they just kind of try to flatten it out as much as possible and don't give you, say, like a periscope lens or a really big sensor or whatever the case may be. So, like I said, until physics can kind of be broken or the technology catches up, we gotta expect something like this, right? Now, the one area where it really bugs me is where I fold it on itself. I used to carry Duo 1 around like this all the time, and I absolutely loved the experience of doing that. I loved it because it kind of felt like I could pull it out of my pocket and I had that one, screen phone. And then when I needed that second screen, I could just pop it out, and there I have dual screens, right? So obviously, I'm not gonna walk around carrying it, this way because I just don't feel comfortable with that constantly cracking. You may bump up against something a little too hard, and that camera bump is going all into this screen here. So definitely got to be a little bit more careful. It's definitely made me wear a smartwatch even more with this particular device. So not too mad there, as I'm somebody who's a big advocate for smartwatches anyway. But that's the only complaint that I would have in terms of the hardware. Microsoft absolutely nailed it. The buttons feel super good. The or not in screen, the side mounted fingerprint sensor is super fast and super responsive. Absolutely killed it in that regard. No issues whatsoever. The inner display, or not inner display, but the screens when you unfold it, super smooth, super fluid. These are at 90 hertz, and I'm one of the people who can tell the difference between 90 hertz and 120, but this doesn't feel significantly less smooth or anything like that. It feels really, really good, especially when you're coming from something like Duo 1, which had the 60 hertz panel and the animations were a little funky. You could definitely notice, and you definitely wanted that higher refresh rate. But with how smooth and how fluid, Duo 2 has been for me personally, I honestly haven't thought to really complain about the 90 hertz versus 120. Plus, you got to remember, you're driving two displays here versus just one. So if both of these displays are at 120 hertz, you're gonna nuke your battery life. And like the battery life is already, acceptable for me, especially for it running two screens at 90 hertz. I definitely don't think that they need to add 120. I think 90 is the sweet spot for this particular device. So I'm hoping that Microsoft can stay there until we get some, better improvements to battery life where we can have, say, a 5,000 milliamp hour battery in this size of a device, being this thin, right? So definitely good on that regard. Now, talking about the screens, let's go ahead and touch on software. So Duo One was a great device. I absolutely love the concept, but just because of how bad the software ran for me personally, I could never daily drive that device. Well, Duo Two, and I can't speak to before the April, update or no, or before the bigger, February updates and all those other updates came out. I can't speak for before then because I honestly didn't have the device at that time, but I can speak for it now. Duo 2 feels so much more stable and so much more fluid than Duo 1 ever felt to me. I could easily daily drive this particular device and have no issues whatsoever. I could, now when it comes to camera, maybe I would carry something like, a Pixel 6 Pro or an S22 Ultra just for a, camera perspective or just from a camera perspective. But in terms of usability, like using this, going between both screens, spanning apps across both screens, even though you probably should never do that. People showing this off and complaining, you're really, really weird. I have no idea why you would do this, especially when with external monitors, you only use each monitor independently. But just, neither here nor there, neither here nor there. I'm not going to critique anybody with this, but everything is super fluid. Even those animations, as you saw, definitely could use some fine tuning, but I'm more than willing to accept the animations here, man. Like opening things up is super fluid. So we'll open up on that screen. You see your apps. We move over to this side, super fluid. We'll go ahead and pop open YouTube on that end. Like I said, it's been a pleasure to use this device in this state. It's been an absolute pleasure, man. And obviously I can't get around it since we got two apps up. That's a perfect segue. We got to talk productivity. So this is probably going to be the best, productivity device that I've personally ever used, right? Now with, Z Fold, you obviously can, open up the display and have access to, kind of a Duo Light. Let me cancel that. A Duo Light situation. Do I not have I don't have screen rotation on. Anyway, and you do have kind of like a Duo Light kind of experience where you could run two apps side by side, but they're still all on one display. So they're still kind of dependent on, how that app is optimized. Take Teams, for example. Teams is an absolute nightmare on the Fold. Everything, and even though it does have the split view, I like to multitask. I have this bigger screen because I want to multitask, not because I want to just run Microsoft Teams. So the best analogy that I normally give, yo, who's throwing out Sonic 2 spoilers, man? Yo, they need to seriously. We're going to go ahead and go to my subscriptions. But anyway, like I said, absolutely love the productivity on this device, man. Like I was talking about Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams is atrocious. The spacing is incorrect when you try to multitask on not just the Fold, but on any other Android smartphone. However, and I don't want to bring up Teams just because I have personal work information in it, but when I bring up Teams on this device, it opens up as one instance of the app on this specific screen or that specific screen. So I don't have to worry about, say, spacing issues or anything like that, right? Like it's just way more productive. You can do drag and drop between the two displays depending on what application you're using. One of the things I love to do with this device is actually run, Twitter and go, oh, I gotta turn on rotation, and I think I got auto brightness on too. Should have turned that off, but it is what it is. But I love being able to say, watch, a YouTube video here. I'll go ahead and turn down the volume, and I'll throw on the homie Evade there. Some Destiny lore for all my Destiny fans. But I love being able to go through this device and scroll Twitter like this. Like, this is fantastic. This is productivity, right? Like, this is a full screen window, right? Versus having kind of that smaller top end of, what you get on the Fold, or an even smaller cutout when you do multi-window on, say, like, a normal Galaxy phone or any other Android phone for that matter. So absolutely love this, man. Like just being able to scroll Twitter like this is just an honest joy and honest pleasure. Like Twitter, Reddit, pretty much, anything or whatever the case may be. So, absolutely love it from a productivity standpoint. You can get really crazy with, the productivity that you can do with this particular device. The one thing I would want them to add, and I'm not sure how tough this would be just because the Duo was already doing so much more than what, Android was kind of designed to do, but I would love to be able to run YouTube on one side, even if you have to do it in landscape, have YouTube up here and have a split view here. So the same way that you can split view apps normally in Android, let us do split screen multitasking per app, right? Even if you can only do three, have YouTube up here and then have, say, like Twitter and text messages down here. Something like that. I would love to see Microsoft do something like that. That would be next level in my opinion from a productivity standpoint. So absolutely love that in terms of the software. Day-to-day software, you still get some minor hiccups and stuff like that with Duo. Again, I probably said it 3 times or 4 times already in this video. Microsoft is really stretching what this device is, intended to do when you're looking at what the Duo is. So, like I said, they gotta work on it. They gotta bake it a little bit more or whatever. I cannot wait to see what 12L looks like on this particular device. I know that that's gonna be a huge update for Duo and Duo 2. So definitely waiting for that one. But like I said, I honestly can't come up with too many negatives. People might say the cameras, but I honestly can't bash Microsoft in terms of the cameras just because for me, this was never a phone that I intended to be like a camera phone. Like I never intended this to be a camera phone. I'll bring the fold here for a second and I'll kind of try to get that. You can kind of see it. I just want to kind of show off the shutter, and I'll move it over here so you can see it a little bit better. But I kind of want to show off the shutter because that's always a huge point of contention for me when it comes to smartphones as a whole. But you see how fast that shutter is. Now that's to say the shutter on here is slightly delayed, right? So, like I said, absolutely love the shutter. Obviously, those photos aren't going to come out great because I'm not under the greatest of lighting conditions, but like I said, for the most part, in terms of the cameras, they're definitely acceptable. Far more than what other reviewers make it seem. They make it seem like these cameras are hot garbage. I've been able to pull some pretty acceptable pictures out of it. Now again, if I'm going somewhere where I know I'm going to be taking pictures and stuff that I want to hang on to for memories, obviously I'm going to bring either the S22 Ultra or the Pixel 6 Pro with me, either or, depending on what I need for that particular day. But cameras are more than acceptable for what I would use them for, maybe scanning documents, a quick picture, for this aspect or that aspect, whatever. Shutter speed is on point, so I have to give them kudos for that, and that's something that I hear that they just updated. So, like I said, I don't want to drag this video out too long, but really am truly a fan of the Surface Duo 2. I am really a fan. This is 110% a device I could see myself carrying every day. Now, if I'll do that, I have no idea, but again, absolutely loving the experience with Surface Duo 2. So that's been my first week with Duo 2, and I can already tell you right off the bat, as much as I love Duo 1, I couldn't see myself daily driving that phone just because of, like I said, the user interface just wasn't there for me. But with Duo 2, I could definitely see myself carrying this and say like a Pixel 6 Pro for the photography side every single day. Now, you guys know me. I'm switching phones constantly and stuff like that. So who knows if that'll actually happen. But I will say, again, I'm still in the honeymoon phase. I absolutely love the Surface Duo 2. I've never felt more productive on a mobile gadget or mobile device than I do when I'm using something like the Duo line of smartphones. So Microsoft, so far, so good. Definitely, like I said, this isn't the destination on this journey with the Duo 2. This is just the beginning. I plan on giving you guys a ton more coverage on this particular device. So if that's something that you're interested in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. But as always, guys, this is Ike's Tech Talk. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.